This is the plaintiff, Tia Turner. She says she hired the defendants to make her wedding cake, and when it was delivered on her wedding day, that thing looked hideous. In fact, the hotel refused to serve it because they deemed it a health hazard and didn't want to be responsible if someone choked to death. She was absolutely devastated on her wedding day because the cake ritual is such a big part of the experience. She's suing for $998, the cost of the cake and emotional distress. These are the defendants, Joe and Stacy Estrada. They say the cake they made the plaintiff was perfectly fine. The hotel complained it was frozen and couldn't be served, but they don't freeze their cake and don't even have a freezer in their shop. The plaintiff is a kook who threatened to blow up the building they work in and have her friend come beat them up. Gee, some people. They're accused of faking the bacon.
All parties, please raise your right hand. Be seated. Come to order, please. Litigants have been sworn, Your Honor.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome in.
Tia Turner, you are suing the Cheesecake Store represented here by Joe and Stacy Estrada for $998 in damages that you feel you have sustained in pain and suffering and the cost of a wedding cake because according to you, the wedding cake was absolutely inedible and unusable. Absolutely. Tell me what happened.
Okay, from the beginning, I met Joe at a wedding show the spring before my wedding. My wedding was in November, and he was there with his wife, and they had beautiful cakes on display. So that was in the spring. Later on that summer, August, I called Joe and I scheduled a cake testing, a free cake testing. And we went to his shop in Menominee Falls, and we tasted this cake, my sister and I, Toya Turner, and we were pleased with what we saw, with what we tasted. And at that time, I decided to hire Joe.
All right, so what happens? Tell me what happens. What's your first inkling that something's wrong?
Well, I didn't even know that anything was wrong until I walked in, like, all my guests were standing up. My husband and I walked in, and I walk in and I see the cake, and I'm looking like, what is this? Because it was absolutely the worst cake I've ever seen in my life. You could have went to your local grocery store and that cake would have looked like $1 million compared to this cake that he brought me.
What was wrong with it?
The cake was unproportionate. The frosting was lumpy, lopsided. The top tier was leaning. It was smeared. The scroll work, it was sloppy. He took flowers off of my table, my decoration table, and applied it on the cake where he made the mistakes. It looked like it had fallen. He completely swiped one side off the cake and just left it because he had messed it up so bad. That was the decorated cake. I bought 3 cakes.
Right.
I have pictures showing that the cakes, I have pictures showing that
did your sister's trying to pipe up? Is that come on up? Is that are you noticed it first?
Yeah, actually, when I walked into the banquet room, Joe was in the room fixing the cake with a butter knife, where one side of the cake was completely smeared. And I asked him what happened, and he looked at me like, "What's wrong with it?" Like, the cake honestly looked very unprofessional. It did not look like any of the work we had seen at his shop or at the bridal show. I mean, that looked like you...
Do you have your book with you? Like, you know, if I were to show up at your shop, wouldn't you have a book where you'd show your
portfolio? No, we didn't bring it. We just brought different cakes that we did.
You do have that?
Yes.
Show me pictures of the different cakes.
I did not ask for that cake stand that is on. That cake stand looked like it could go in your bathroom. You could hang towels on it. I didn't ask for any of that. He did not have permission to take any of those flowers off of my tables and stick them on a cake. He didn't have any permission to do that. And there's 2 other cakes that I haven't even talked about yet. I ordered a decorated cake, and then I ordered 2 side cakes. For whatever reason, I don't know what Joe did or where he went, but he initially came with just the decorated cake. He did not have the 2 decorated, the two side cakes with him.
Those are sheets of cake that are going to get served once.
Absolutely. He did not have those. They asked him where they were. He said, "Oh, this is the only cake." But it states on the contract that I ordered 2 other cakes. He came back 1.5 to 2 hours later with the other 2 cakes because they were so ridiculous. I think he thought that maybe he was going to be able to get away with bringing that 1 cake and keeping those other ones, and I wouldn't know. Because, you know,
what happened? What happened with the other cake?
I was in the hall decorating the cake, you know, setting it up and stuff like that. her sister came in, the decorator was there, or the coordinator. They're getting very loud, very aggressive. And they had also catering staff in there and other people that are bringing in flowers and stuff like that to put on the cake. I don't know why they're bringing those flowers in.
Why are you putting them on your cake? That's not what she asked.
No, because the way I left the cake was right there in that picture.
Okay, I'm looking at the picture. These are petals that were on the table that get slapped onto the cake sort of haphazardly to cover mistakes.
I didn't do that.
Who else would do that?
Some guy and her sister and everybody else in there's like, put something on it, put something on it. You know, the ribbons bent and everything else. They go, just put something on it. I'm like, that's going to look ridiculous having those different colors on her because it's not matching her plum color.
The plaintiff bought a cake from the defendants and says it was so gnarly the restaurant wouldn't even serve it. The worst cake ever. Let's listen.
It's smeared. How'd that happen?
It was smeared underneath the ribbon and I
No,
put
not underneath the ribbon. Here.
Your Honor, I also have statements.
When I stuck that tier on there, my finger gets stuck underneath it. And that was before the ribbon was on. And then what I do, I flattened it out, I put the ribbon on it. And then it didn't look that bad when I left it.
What do you think she did? Sabotage her own cake so it would look worse?
Pretty much so.
Really?
Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you dealt with brides? They want a pretty cake.
Do you see the photo I give him from the front view of it? That's what the cake looked like when I left the hall.
This is a picture you took of their wedding cake?
Their wedding. That's her cake.
Okay.
And we did offer money back.
Hold on, no, we'll get there. And then
okay.
these are pictures of other people's cakes.
Correct. We have a lot of compliments on our cakes. They're homemade and fresh, and they look homemade.
That's the same stand you're looking at that we've used in a previous wedding, and they loved their cake, their stand.
This one's beautiful. Would you say that this scroll work looks like this scroll work? I'm going to hand the pictures over to you.
No, we do have different decorators, so there is a different style to it, and we understood that they were displeased with the decorating, so we did offer money back for that.
Right. So tell me what happened with the two other sheets.
The sheets I left at the front host in the restaurant area, and I said they're for the wedding and couple like that. I'm not going to carry them through the wedding itself. The half sheets, because they go in the back kitchen.
Now, according to you, that he came back hours later with the sheets. How do you know he came back hours later?
I have I have documents. I have letters, statements from the hotel.
Let me see the documents from the hotel.
Okay. And this is also from...
In regards to the events concerning your wedding cake brought by Mr. Joe Estrada on the night of November 5th, this is by the Four Points Sheraton catering manager?
Yes.
Okay. Upon entering with the cakes, it was visible the white frosting did not match between the three cakes. Upon further view, it was noted that it was a corner presentation cake stand. In this instance, the cake was in the middle of the ballroom. During the setup process, one side of the tiered cake was disrupted, which prompted Mr. Estrada to attempt to fix a side of the cake. After I guess her family didn't mess up the cake. After completing the fix, it was clear the decision was to simply wipe the side of the cake clean versus reproducing the look presented on the other three sides of the cake.
I have a picture of
that. It was also noted that there were two additional sheet cakes that were not brought at the time of his arrival. The two additional sheet cakes, however, were eventually brought in roughly 1.5 hours later and dropped off at the front host stand in our restaurant. I mean, this fellow has nothing to do with them, right? It's not their relative. He doesn't appear to be very happy with your work either. As the night progressed, the time came to cut the cake for the guests. It was very difficult to cut through the cake. The cake seemed to be either frozen or well overcooked. In this instance, upon cutting into the cake further, these cakes were horribly overcooked to the point where the outer part of the cakes was extremely hard. The sheet cakes brought in were no different. When it came time at the wedding to cut the cake and do the whole little routine, the little tradition, did you do it?
When I saw the cake, I told him, I said, just get it out of here and cut it. It was,
so you didn't
when I seen it,
what
was,
I'm saying,
right.
What I'm talking about, the tradition, you didn't do it?
No.
Did you serve the cake?
Right, no.
Okay. So
what is the video
This
of?
video is part of what I'm suing for. I'm suing him for, I was humiliated. I was embarrassed. People were talking about this. I had to get up in front of 250 people and explain to them that I didn't have I apologized. I said, I don't have dessert to serve you. Where it's edible, where I would even feel appropriate serving it to you guys. Seriously, so I apologize in advance that I don't have cake to serve you guys, but I did have one, it's just not right. So I will be getting all my money back for that cake. I don't have cake to serve you guys. It just wasn't appropriate. I don't even feel right serving it to my guests tonight. So I'm sorry that I don't have cakes, but
Who's that? Is that your husband trying to get a word in edgewise and not being able to? He's trying to go to the microphone. She's like, yeah.
And welcome back to the People's Court. Harvey Lemon here. So would a bride actually ruin her own wedding by smearing her wedding cake up in order to get money? What do you think?
I don't think it's right, but some people are corrupted, so maybe.
Do you think a bride would actually ruin her big day? What do you think?
I don't think so. I know I wouldn't.
Even if you were unhappy with the cake to begin with?
It would ruin my whole day, and the wedding's supposed to be really special.
Let's go to somebody who's, have you been married?
I've been married. I wouldn't do it, but I can imagine if you're unhappy, you would.
It's like self-mutilation. I mean, seriously, going inside the courtroom.
All right, you go in to see him. When do you first contact him and tell him I'm very unhappy and I want my money back?
that Monday.
And how did that go?
We went there, we brought him all the cake. It was me, my sister, my other sister, and my father. He was cutting the cake, and he's like, oh, well, I can cut the cake. I'm like, well, yeah, it's 48 hours later. It's unthawed.
Well, why were you on your honeymoon?
Huh?
You didn't take a honeymoon?
I'm going on honeymoon.
Okay. So at some point, you were trying to say that you did offer her some money back. Tell me what you were
we have a stream of emails
Yes, I have those.
saying that we wanted to offer her some money back because she was upset.
How much money did you offer her back?
175 initially, and that was out of the fact that she was not happy with the design. We did not believe that an inch of that cake was unedible.
But you did hear me when I read what the catering manager at the 4 Point said, right?
I think it's just so hard for him to believe that they wouldn't serve the cake. It's upsetting for us.
But you just finished seeing the video where the bride is in her wedding dress.
She wanted all of her money back. So she didn't.
Why would just the fact that somebody doesn't like the way it looks, you just wheel it out and then you serve it. It could still taste good.
Exactly.
Right, but that's my point. That's why it obviously didn't taste good, or she would have served the darn cake. You see the evidence of the bride in her wedding dress saying, I can't do this, it's not edible, it's got blah, blah, blah. She's at her wedding. What could be more embarrassing than what that lady went through on that microphone? I mean, you got no dessert for your guests. I mean,
if she said,
there's none so blind as they who will not see. How much more evidence do you need? Let me ask you a question. According to a police report that you've handed me, they threatened you and you needed to call the police. Tell me about that.
Yes.
They said, that they were going to take care of him.
But according to you, you tell the police that they threatened to blow up your store.
That's what they said.
Same thing.
They said they'll take my windows out. They said they'll take me out, blow my windows out, and stuff like that, or the store and burn it down or something. She was very upset, but I do take threats seriously. I have my 5-year-old kid in there every day with my wife.
Did you threaten to?
Absolutely not.
I know you were angry.
No, absolutely not.
Thank
I
you.
would never.
All right. So, what have we got? You're suing for pain and suffering. This is a contracts case. You can't really sue for pain and suffering, okay? You're suing for the cost of the top layer of the anniversary cake. What are you talking about? That thing people do where they save that top thing and then they eat it?
Absolutely, because...
Why are you valuing that at $105 if that's something that was included in the $593.86? Because you have to now go and buy another piece of cake?
Yes.
I am going to award you the $593.86. I will award you $50 for a new pretty cake that you're going to have to get for you and your husband, really because of all the trouble that you've had to go through. That's a judgment in your favor in the amount of $643.86. That is my judgment. I'm sorry that it ended up that way. You sound like a resilient person. And as someone who's just celebrated her 19th wedding anniversary yesterday, let me tell you that it's going to take a lot of resiliency, okay? So it's good that you have that trait. Verdict for you, $643.86.
Well, the cake people come out first. They will be paying it back. Not your finest hour.
Nope.
Right?
Not at all.
I think we're both just happy it's over, and maybe she's a little happier now.
Was she bridezilla?
I'd say times 5.
Times 5?
Oh, definitely.
Why would you say that?
Who else would act like that?
Well, I don't know. They're pretty emotional at their weddings, and they want things the way,
I think if the cake was 2 hours late for delivery, it should be able to cut if it was frozen.
All right. Okay. Right down there. Okay. Head right around the corner. Come on out here and So you finally able to put this behind you now?
I am. I'm happy. I mean, you know, she was tough, but she was fair, and she saw right through him being a fraud. He's a fraud.
How humiliating was it to stand up and make that speech at your wedding where, sorry, I have no dessert for you people?
It was absolutely humiliating. Who wants to do that on their wedding? Who wants to think about that? You just want to be happy. You don't want to have to explain to people, oh, this didn't go right. So it was very humiliating, but you know, I'm very happy about everything. So
how's everything going in married life?
Wonderful.
Harvey?
You know, this dude is lucky that he didn't have to pay for more. He ruined a big part of their wedding. And that will do it for this case. Litigants for the next case on the way into the courtroom right now.